Welcome to the Living Unoffended podcast with your host, Brant Hansen.
It is totally like clockwork every time. And you can try this. You can go online and repeat the words of Jesus, offer a little commentary about it when it comes to turning the other cheek, or when it comes to blessing those who curse you, or when it comes to doing good instead of returning evil with evil. And the same word will pop up at some point. It's just going to happen. And it's a word that I think is kind of hilarious because it doesn't actually get used that much in its actual context, just in this context. And that word is doormat. The word doormat will come up at some point. It makes me laugh. I guess we say doormat some, about actual physical doormats, but the doormat thing, if you want to ever talk about, you just read the words of Jesus on the stuff I was just talking about. Some of us, but, and these will be professing Christians, like cultural Christians, will be like, but we're not supposed to be doormats. Okay. Perhaps let's think about that. I want to read the definition because I thought, am I thinking clearly here? Like, what do other people mean by doormats? Maybe I'm thinking of something different. But this is the definition of doormat according to something online here. It is a figurative term for someone who lacks boundaries, allowing others to take advantage of or mistreat them without complaining or standing up for themselves. Key characteristics of doormats. Number 1, people-pleasing, constantly agreeing to things to keep others happy, even at a personal cost. Secondly, lack of boundaries, struggling to say no, making you an easy target for manipulation or exploitation. Thirdly, avoidance of conflict, submitting to unfair treatment simply to avoid tension or confrontation. Fourthly, hidden resentment. Although you might appear agreeable on the surface, this behavior often leads to severe internal frustration and feeling underappreciated. And it closes with why people become doormats. The breakdown of assertive communication notes that doormat behavior often stems from a fear of abandonment, low self-esteem, or misunderstanding of what it means to be kind. People confuse being polite with abandoning their own needs. So that's what we're talking about when we say, well, you don't want to be a doormat. I wonder if we watched from just as a third person observer of what Jesus was doing, if we would look at him and go, he's being a doormat. I suspect people would say that, and they would be completely wrong, but they would say that because our idea of how this works is completely out of sync with how the kingdom works. And here's what I mean by this. Jesus is in front of Pilate in Luke, and Pilate figures out, he understands that Jesus is a Galilean, therefore he's under Herod's jurisdiction, so he takes him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at the time. And picking up here in Luke 23:8 says, when Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased because for a long time he'd been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform a sign of some sort. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day, I think this is kind of funny for some reason, that day Herod and Pilate became friends. Before they had been enemies, so they were making friends. So Jesus isn't responding, and he's being mocked and ridiculed, and he's not saying anything. Is he being a doormat? We see in John chapter 19 when he's before Pilate. And when Pilate heard from the Jewish leaders that they had a law that said he needed to be crucified because he claimed to be the Son of God, it says when Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid and he went back inside the palace. Where do you come from? He asked Jesus. But Jesus gave him no answer. Do you refuse to speak to me? Pilate said. Don't you realize I have power either to free you or to crucify you? Jesus answered, you would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin. But I want to go to that thing about you would have no power over me. He's saying, I'm the one in power here. I actually have power over you. But he's allowing this stuff to happen to him. He's allowing it to happen. Does that make you, or does that make him a doormat? No. No, of course it doesn't. Because the power relationship is still the power relationship. And here's what I mean by that. I used to play. I was a day camp counselor, so I played with kids all day, a couple summers when I was in college. And it was fun, play kickball and stuff like that, and go swimming and all that sort of stuff. There was a kid, maybe more than one, but who would make fun of me. So maybe I'm 19 years old, and I have this nystagmus thing. I have this deal with my it's a neurological problem, so my head moves back and forth when I'm not thinking about stopping it. If I'm not thinking, I'm doing that. And so this kid would make fun of me, and he's like 8 years old, 8 or 9, and had this ability to just say the thing to cut you down. Okay, so what do I do in that situation? Am I being a doormat if I don't unleash on him? Am I being a doormat if I don't cut him to ribbons in front of his little friends and mock him? Am I being a doormat? Or am I actually being loving by not destroying him even when he's going after me? Think about your own kids. If you have kids, they're very vulnerable. They say something. Do you crush them in that moment? Because you can intellectually, and you can mock them and get them back. I'm not saying you don't discipline them, but you know what I mean? Like, somebody says something to you and you have mercy on them and you don't cut them to ribbons. Clearly, in those examples, that's not being a doormat, right? I hope you understand that. That's actually being strong. That's actually strength. I see this with guys. There are a lot of pastors online for some reason. I don't know what it is, but there's this thing where they feel like strength itself means I go off on people on Twitter. Somehow that's equated with being strong. I saw one quote unquote pastor who said, we need to recover the virtue of Christian hate, he said. Seriously, said that. But it's tied up with a lot of posing about manliness and that sort of stuff. Like, we can't just be doormats. Do you understand that following Jesus does not make you a doormat? Let me give you another example. Let's say somebody online has 1 billion followers. They're a huge celebrity and they're very powerful, maybe politically, or they're a billionaire or something, and they just decide to go off on me for some reason. This is a weird hypothetical, like why would they? But let's say they do. And they cut me down and they say things that are awful and hateful. If I don't respond in kind, am I being a doormat? Some would say yes. But I would tell you that it's actually the same power dynamic, even though it doesn't seem like it, as with a little kid. Turning the other cheek. I do that, or if I don't return evil with evil, because I actually still love this person and I'm for this person. I don't want to destroy them. They can say what they want to me, but actually I've got the power in a sense that no one else will understand, but this is the way the kingdom works. I actually have the power of knowing who I am with God. I don't need to cut anybody. I'm still, again, rooting for them. I can engage for sure, but it's how I do it, right? Like, how am I going to engage? I could stand up for truth. I can make arguments. All that's great, but how do I do it? Well, he's cutting you to ribbons. You got to punch back. No, I don't. No, actually, because I'm strong, I don't have to. And I will always draw on this. I mentioned it on this very podcast, so forgive me if you've heard this, but I still remember my stepdad when we were driving in traffic and these people were being nutso in a Jeep, bunch of like teenagers or something, and driving recklessly, and he let them in this line. They went into the grass and passed everybody. He let them in. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, He's like, well, somebody's going to get hurt. So instead of trying to teach a lesson, he was actually concerned about these kids he doesn't know, one of them getting hurt. I don't call that weakness. Weakness is the opposite of turning the other cheek. Somebody hits you, you got to hit back, because that's what we do. That's what toddlers do. That's what humans do, unless they're more powerful than that. Where that other person doesn't determine your next move. If somebody hits you in the face, someone it metaphorically hits you in the face and you feel like you have to do it back. Well, that's being trapped. But the freedom that comes with walking in the kingdom, like doing things the Jesus way, this way of his, now you don't have to do that at all. You don't have to respond that way. You can walk a mile, go a second mile. Watch me. Like the power relationship is very interesting because from the surface, what people are looking at the outside, they're like, well, you got to hit back. You got to do this thing. But they're not taking into account the security that we have, drawing on the love of God for who we are, knowing that ultimately we trust him for justice and vengeance. I don't have to get it right now. That's a strength. If you're a young man and you're listening to this, like when you become a dad, you don't crush your wife when she says something wrong to you or is sarcastic. You don't go right back at her. You don't crush your kids when they say something that might hurt your feelings. Like you get to a point where it's like, that's not what I do, because I'm dealing from actually a really strong place. Jesus obviously could have zapped everybody, but he was allowing this to happen because he had this thing he wanted to do that's actually born out of love for the very people that were doing this stuff. He went and did something loving for the people who were crucifying him. He actually did it for them as well. Asking God for a blessing on them from the cross, that the Lord would forgive them. This is not weakness. That is not doormat. That is not having boundaries. You can have boundaries all you want. Having boundaries is a good thing, but you still love people and you return evil with good and you bless those who curse you. It's a very strong thing. I hope this makes sense. I just know that every time I bring it up, there's a comment right out of the box about, well, we can't be doormats. Okay, but let's actually do the Jesus stuff and see why we're not doormats by doing it, rather than leaving the Jesus stuff behind because we're a little embarrassed about it or something, like it's just weakness. It's not. It's not. It's the ultimate strength. It looks like weakness. There's a sense in which it is. I mean, Jesus allowed himself to be crucified, but there's obviously more going on there that's so deeply strong because it's from him. The strength is ultimately from him and trusting him. So hope that makes sense. Thank you for listening to this. Love to know how this is going. If you're practicing this loving your enemies thing, this way of Jesus, hit me up. It's Brant at branthansen.com. Give me a quick status update. I'd love to hear if this is helping at all. At least put it back on your plate. That's what I was thinking. Do it a weekly would be something where you could return to this theme, and I could too, as we walk this out, because we have to remind each other of what this actually looks like to pick up our cross and follow him. So thank you for listening. Lastly, I had two things left to tell you. Number one, United Faith Mortgage is our sponsor. Appreciate them so much. So glad that they appreciate what we do here with the podcast and the show and stuff. So thanks to them. You can find them at unitedfaithmortgage.com. Highly recommend. They may be able to save you a lot of money too, because they're direct lenders. So that gives them more flexibility where they could get you a lower rate, which is pretty awesome right now. So unitedfaithmortgage.com. The other thing I wanted to tell you, I keep forgetting to say where I'm going to be, because I'd love to meet you if you're in the area. I'm going to be at the Heights Church in Richardson, Texas next week as I read this. So that's going to be August. It's the first Sunday. So I should look this up first. I'm sorry about that. It is going to be August 8th. And I'll be speaking in the morning at the worship services. And then in the evening, we're going to do a Q&A session and talk about a lot of this stuff. So that's Richardson, Texas. And that is August 8th. So thank you for listening. Absolutely honored. Again, I hope it's a help.
You've been listening to the Living Unoffended podcast with Brant Hansen. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And if you'd like more information on Brant Hansen, his book Unoffendable, and more, go to branthansen.com.